Hello everyone and welcome back guys to a brand new video where today we're here for something a little bit different. Now over the last few weeks we have obviously been having a lot of virtual Formula 1 racing. I'm sure that is no new news to absolutely anyone in the world of motorsport, and you know it has been brilliant for the most part as well. Now over the last couple of weeks I've been trying to watch it a little bit more, everything like that, and I made a couple of videos last year talking about the F1 eSports series. So today I was sort of planning on trying to bring some of those conversations back. You know, try and make a bit of a series where we discuss the events of the F1 2020 eSports series. Now, obviously, normally at the moment we've got 3, maybe 4 races going on over the course of the weekend. Obviously, we've got the not the GP, the F2, and obviously the real-life Formula 1 drivers. For this series, I will only be focusing on the, you know, sort of proper F1 eSports drivers in all of these races, because personally to me, it's the one I find the most interesting to watch. I'll be honest as well, at the end of the day, I know obviously the one with all the real Formula 1 drivers, everything like that, obviously get a lot more recognition and views and everything like that. But personally, yeah, I don't know why you'd focus more on something with people that aren't quite as good at the game. Plus, you know, if you haven't watched one of the Pro Series Virtual GPs, I would highly recommend going and doing so, because it is pretty damn crazy, as proven by today's race at the Monaco Grand Prix. Now, obviously, if you guys do go on to like this format as well, make sure you do like the video and subscribe to the channel as well, so I know to make more content from this series. If there's any tweaks or changes as well that you'd potentially like to see coming from this as well, obviously I can try and implement some of those as well. But yeah, today's race though from the Monaco Grand Prix was obviously a very, very good one. We saw a fantastic strategy call from Lucas Blakely to take his very, very first race victory in any of the F1 Pro Series Pro Esports events in the world of Formula 1. Now, obviously, he came to the scene in Season 2. You know, he came up on the PS4 platform, everything like that. You know, you watched him rise the ranks on the PS4 side of things. You know, he absolutely tore up AOR. Got a little bit unlucky towards the end of the season. Had a couple of very, very unfortunate mishaps in that. But, you know, once he got to the Pro Draft, you know, he was always going to be one of those people that probably deserved a seat in the real world of, you know, sort of the official F1 Esports Championship at the end of the day. And, you know, he's been one of those drivers that's always been there or thereabouts, not quite normally quite having enough, you know, to match the absolute heavyweights, you know, your David Tenitzas, your Freddy Rasmussens, your Bereznes, your Lees at the end of the day. But Monaco has a strange way of changing things ever so slightly, and now it actually wasn't looking all too good for Lucas Blakely during qualifying. He was sat at about P11 until very, very late in the session, where we actually got to ride on board throughout an entire lap with him. And what a lap it was. It left him, I think it was P4 or P5 on the grid, if I'm not mistaken, and that meant, I think he only improved by like 1.5 tenths, and he shot up like 8 places at the time. That is just how close the F1 Esports series is. I mean, tonight at Monaco, I think 14th was 4 tenths off pole position. It's just beyond a joke how close this series is at the end of the day, and that's when we sort of saw the interesting strategy come in from Lucas Blakely, because at the end of lap 1, him, as well as quite a few other drivers behind him, you know, he was up to P4 at the time, sat behind Brendan Lee, David Tenitza, and if I'm not mistaken, Danny Berezne at the time. And suddenly, we just saw Lucas Blakely diving into the pit lane. Now, at the time, I thought perhaps he picked up a little bit from wing damage, but you started seeing everyone behind him cycle into the pit lane as well. We saw, I think it was like 6 or 7 cars on the opening lap of the Grand Prix all dart suddenly into the pit lane there, and that's when I realised, obviously, the soft tyres were very, very quickly going to overheat. You know, obviously in these sorts of races, especially around a track like Monaco where there's so many traction zones, you know, F1 2019's tyre model, not quite as extreme as F1 2018's in terms of the sort of the heat build-up on the car, but it's still very, very easy to completely overheat the rear tyres around this circuit. So that was when we realised, obviously, Lucas Blakely, he was going to try and pull out an undercut and go 19 laps on the set of the medium compound tyre there. And that was sort of when suddenly, you know, we saw him and quite a few other drivers come into the pit lane. They then had about an 8-9 second gap to the cars up the road. And then suddenly we saw one of the big defining moments of the Grand Prix. Now, the first couple of laps saw Brendan Lee actually jump David Tanitsa off the start line. That actually seems crazy to look back at now, based on the final results. But yeah, Brendan Lee got the jump on Tanitsa off the start. It was the first time, I think, ever we've seen Tanitsa and Lee, you know, the only two F1 Esports champions, actually going at each other in this series. And yeah, Lee started second place on the grid, got the run around the outside into turn 1. I think, now I don't know for sure, it looked a little bit like David Tanitsa got a bit of a lag start, in all honesty. It seemed that he didn't, you know, it seemed very odd that he got jumped that much by Brendan Lee off the start of the race. You know, it might have happened, but it's, yeah, seemed very unlikely at the end of the day. Now, Lee got the jump off the start, like I said. We saw Lucas Blakely and quite a few other drivers dive into the pits at the end of lap 1. Suddenly then, at the end of lap 2, we saw Lee's race completely unfold. Now, he got very unlucky, in all honesty. Obviously, dived into the pit lane. So did quite a few of the other cars behind him. Most notably, actually, not David Tanitsa. He actually opted to stay out for yet another lap in the Grand Prix there. And Lee, he got held in the pit lane. Very unfortunate, in all honesty. And that meant that he came out behind Lucas Blakely as well as behind Danny Berezne, which was an absolutely fantastic battle to watch as well over the course of the race. And that obviously meant for David Tanitsa, personally, if I'd been in his position, I would have tried to hang it out for a couple more laps, but I'm sure, you know, he had the information of the deltas, everything like that. I'm sure he was probably looking at Lucas Blakely, potentially taking time out of him, despite being on the harder compounded tyres, and despite, obviously, the fact that the softs should be able to go at least sort of 5 or 6 laps around Monaco at pretty good pace. So that forced David Tanitsa into pitting at the end of lap 3. That obviously meant that Lucas Blakely got the jump on him and did a fantastic job all race long defending from David Tanitsa as well. You know, that was one of those races where probably, you know, David Tanitsa and Brendan Lee both deserved to win it. Both got a little bit unlucky, but Lucas Blakely, you know, he forced everyone into making that alternate strategy. You know, sometimes in those sorts of races, if someone doesn't follow your strategy, it can really cost you. But if you manage to get sort of 7-8 cars dragged into the pit lane with you on that first lap, everyone else doesn't want to be losing out to you. So you tend to find that everyone else will follow into the pit lane as well. So yeah, we saw Lucas Blakely shoot from 3rd straight up into the lead, or effectively the net lead even, sorry, I should say, of the Grand Prix very early on. And that's obviously where we then saw David Tanitsa absolutely apply all the pressure in the world, pretty much throughout the entirety of the Grand Prix. And he was actually quite mad at just how much pressure David Tanitsa was able to put on Lucas Blakely. You know, Blakely, don't get me wrong, did a fantastic job to defend from all that pressure. But for me, I honestly felt that David Tanitsa's drive, you know, being able to apply that much pressure for that long around Monaco was probably even more impressive. In all honesty, you know, the only mistake we saw from David Tanitsa after that was on the final lap of the race. He took a bit too much curb through the final chicane. Obviously, it was one of those all-or-nothing sort of moments in Formula 1. He picked up the 3-second time penalty, which unfortunately, you know, the final race results won't quite tell the full story because of that. But yeah, still a fantastic job by David Tanitsa. But yeah, Lucas Blakely did everything he needed to after that. He had a couple of scary moments, you know, a couple of times where obviously we saw David Tanitsa get right up the back of him, you know, potentially tried to have a bit of a look up the inside into La Rascasse, but ultimately, you know, Monaco, especially in the Formula 1 cars, it's so difficult on these Formula 1 games to get any sort of run anywhere around the tracks. That for Lucas Blakely, although don't get me wrong, it certainly wasn't easy, it isn't the most difficult track to defend at either, in sort of a weird way, with just the way Formula 1 works in the end. Now, obviously, we watched that battle up the front throughout the entirety of the Grand Prix. We also had another brilliant battle behind them from Brendan Lee and Danny Berezne. Now, that battle originally, obviously, being former teammates actually back at Mercedes during Season 2 of the F1 Esports Series. Obviously, we saw Danny Berezne. He left the Mercedes team. He wanted to be a #1 driver somewhere else. He's been under quite a lot of pressure from Barry Boram in the recent weeks. You know, that is someone else who I definitely going to be discussing later on in this video. But yeah, Danny Berezne, obviously he then moved up himself up into P3 after Brendan Lee got jumped in the pit lane. Spent quite a few laps having to defend from him over the next few laps there, and suddenly out of nowhere, unfortunately he wasn't actually caught on the stream. Brendan Lee made the move work, and then very, very quickly after that picked up front wing damage. Now, I don't know if they were the same sort of incident. It was actually thought for a while that Danny Berezne, sorry, even I should say, had some front wing damage as well, because he was losing a lot of time to the top two. And this is something else that needs to be discussed from poor Danny Berezne here. What his qualifying pace is incredible most weeks, but his race pace, he always seems to lose, you know, sort of 3-4 tenths a lap. And when you're fighting at this sort of level, you can't afford to be losing 3-4 tenths a lap to the guys behind you, especially, you know, if you want to lead a team to an F1 Esports Championship, you cannot be losing that time. And it seems to be very, very consistent. He needs to try and work on his race pace. You know, I know we're talking fine margins right at the very top. But yeah, that is definitely what, you know, when the official season rolls around, I think obviously it's still meant to be in the summer. You know, that is definitely what Danny Berezne is really, really going to have to focus on. His one lap pace, second to none. Race pace, on the other hand, yeah, really does need some work. And yeah, like I said, we then saw Brendan Lee get past him very, very quickly after that, pick up front wing damage. And that basically allowed Tanitsa and Blakely to absolutely run away, despite their battles going on between the pair of them. You know, Brendan Lee, front wing damage obviously costs you so much time around the Monaco Grand Prix, and it's not a deficit you're going to be able to make up at this sort of level there. So Brendan Lee, you know, I think he finished sort of 16 seconds back from Lucas Blakely at the end of the day. But once he got past Danny Berezne, yeah, it seemed quite crazy that he couldn't get past Berezne with no front wing damage. Sorry, he could get past Berezne, sorry, without front wing damage. But Danny Berezne couldn't get back past him despite the lack of downforce on the Mercedes car, as well as, you know, the fact that it was finally good to see Brendan Lee somewhere back near the top of the order. You know, it's been so long. I really do not know what happened to him over the course of the 2019 season. He was, for a lack of better term, nowhere in F1 Esports. I mean, David Tanitsa absolutely wiped the floor with everyone. But yeah, the fact that Brendan Lee was nowhere really did say a lot over the course of the Real Championship last year. But hopefully, heading into 2020, we'll see Brendan Lee back on fighting form, because really, we haven't, obviously, apart from Season 1, where it was sort of set up that it was going to be a bit difficult to try and absolutely dominate, we haven't seen a title battle yet. We've seen one driver in both seasons really sort of dominate. Now, Season 2 was obviously affected because Freddy Rasmussen with Red Bull, or I think it was Toro Rosso even back in the day, sorry, I should say, they obviously were running still split strategies. Brendan Lee ran every race, so it was kind of a sort of very easy title for him at the end of the day in that regard. But yeah, hopefully Season 4 we can see a big battle between those guys. Now, speaking just then about Freddy Rasmussen, you know, he set world records this week running in the build-up to this race, and he's absolutely dominated the F1 Esports series so far in 2020. Monaco, though, like I said, it has a way of changing things in the world of Formula 1, and unfortunately, it wasn't Freddy Rasmussen's day. A 1 minute 7.7 is still a bonkers lap to put down in a qualifying session, but it was nowhere near good enough to be where I'm sure he wanted to be in qualifying there. He started, you know, I think it was about P6, P7, ready for the race. Actually ran fairly well until quite late on, and then I'm not too sure what happened. I think he picked up some front wing damage. I think actually he got involved in a bit of a scuff with Alvaro Carleton as well. I'm guessing, obviously, with Alvaro in the Williams on the alternate strategy, tried to get past him. He picked up front wing damage. They got together. He then pretty much rage quit instantly after that, so I'm really not too sure what happened to that, but I'm sure we're going to see Fighting Freddy back next time out at Baku. And there, that leads us on then to the Williams alternate strategy. You know, we had Alvaro Carleton, probably the greatest name in the world to try and say, and then Michael Romandis as well. Sorry if I'm butchering either of those names. But yeah, they went for the alternate strategy. They started on the mediums. It really worked out quite well for Romandis at the end of the day. He made up 5 places in the end, from 13th on the grid up to 8th at the end of the race. And honestly, I was expecting him to probably make a little bit more progress, as everyone from 3rd down was stuck in the train behind Brendan Lee. But still a very good job by him. You know, he's still very young in the world of F1 Esports. You know, Williams rocking quite a young driver lineup in this championship, and they are both doing notably well. I think they certainly are going to be looking at the future to be trying to really sort of build up their momentum, everything like that. You know, with the help of Isaac Price as well in behind the scenes, obviously able to pan around laps anywhere and get a lot of information out of the car and build a good team. It's certainly going to be interesting to see what those Williams boys can do over the next couple of years. Now, other notable performances, whether it was for better or for worse, obviously, unfortunately, Simon Wigang, I think, got taken out on lap 1. I'm not really too sure what happened with that. He was towards the rear of the field anyway, and unfortunately, yeah, he was the one proper casualty from lap 1 we had as well. Patrick Holtzman, obviously, I know he's been focusing on the Porsche Esports Super Cup recently over on iRacing. Never set a qualifying time. Never started the race. He got disqualified on lap 1 for not leaving the grid, so I'm guessing he had better places to be. You don't really know at the end of the day. But yeah, that was another interesting talking point from that race. Other notable performances, though, I'm going to give a bit of a shout out to Daniel Haddad. Before last season, hadn't really heard of him anywhere. Still not really too sure what he does most of the time anyway. In all honesty, you know, really was nowhere in the first season of the esports series. The third season of the esports series, his first season, even, I should say, in F1 esports. But, you know, he had a good result today. Both of the Racing Point boys obviously had a fantastic job with Lucas Blakely taking home the race victory there. And yeah, my sort of special shout out as well is going to go to Daniel Haddad. Hopefully we can see some more progress from him. And yeah, that also leads us on to Barry Boram. Before this series, I'd never heard of him. Can please someone give me some information about this guy? I really do not know much about him whatsoever at the end of the day, and I would love to learn a little bit more sort of about his sim racing history, everything like that. I think now saying that he has raced in AOR a couple of seasons, but yeah, I really don't know in all honesty. So if anyone does know that, please do let me know down in the comments below. Now, the last sort of thing I want to talk about then from this race is, should the tyre strategy be altered slightly? Does this mean that we need to start seeing some more tweaks with F1 2020 right around the corner, you know, to stop this sort of strategy happening? Because now it's been done in F1 esports, people will be trying it out in league races. That is going to be the way it works now when F1 2020 does roll around. Personally, although don't get me wrong, it was a strategy masterclass and you've got to work with what you've got to work with. At the end of the day, it did seem a little bit ridiculous that after one flying lap, the mediums were already the better tyre to be on than the softs. And yeah, personally, I think it's a little bit crazy, but that's the way it works sometimes in racing. And yeah, not trying to take away from Lucas Blakely anyway. But yeah, certainly I do think that probably needs to be looked into, ready for F1 2020. But looking ahead, though, to Baku next time out. Hopefully going to be another pretty cool race. Hopefully fairly crazy as well, like Baku tends to be. Obviously, the big slipstream trains. It did also play host to one of the most dramatic finishes I think we've ever seen in F1 esports. Obviously, flashbacks to Season 2, where Freddy Rasmussen got the run on Brendan Lee at the final corner, down towards the start-finish line there. It is very much a Freddy Rasmussen hunting ground. If I'm not mistaken, he dominated the race last season in Season 3. As well. So I'm sure we're probably going to see Freddy Rasmussen back on form in a couple of weeks' time. But there we are then, guys. That is going to be it for our F1 2020 Virtual GP from Monaco with the Pro F1 esports drivers. Let me know your thoughts and feelings as well about the race. And like I said, if you did enjoy this video and this format, do make sure you get yourself subscribed as well for more of this content. But yeah, that'll do us for this one though, guys, and hopefully I will see you guys next time out, where we will give a bit of a review of the race from Azerbaijan.